The rain had already soaked the streets of a quiet neighborhood outside Columbus, Ohio, when a woman stood alone on the church steps, clutching the tiny hands of three frightened children. Her face carried the kind of exhaustion that only years of heartbreak could carve into a person. She wasn't waiting for anyone. She wasn't expecting a miracle. She was simply trying to gather enough courage to walk home after hearing yet another reminder that life wasn't meant to be kind to people like her. But sometimes the greatest love stories begin exactly where hope disappears. Sometimes a single sentence changes everything. And that day, those words would become the beginning of a life none of them ever imagined. If you believe kindness still changes lives and that everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you love, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps bring more inspiring stories like this to people who need hope today. Sarah Mitchell had never imagined becoming a widow before her 34th birthday. Only 5 years earlier, she and her husband Nathan had dreamed about growing old together in the small white house they had bought just outside Columbus. They had planted flowers every spring, laughed over burnt pancakes every Saturday morning, and filled every room with the joyful chaos of raising 3 beautiful children. 8-year-old Caleb loved building toy airplanes, 6-year-old Grace believed every stray cat deserved a home, and little Noah, only 4 years old, smiled with such innocence that strangers often stopped just to wave at him. Their home had never been perfect, but it had always been full of love. Everything changed on a cold November evening when Nathan never returned from work. A terrible highway accident stole his life within minutes, leaving Sarah with 3 children, unpaid bills, and a silence so overwhelming that it echoed through every room of their home. The funeral ended. Friends slowly returned to their own lives, and reality settled in like an endless winter. Every morning, Sarah woke before sunrise to clean offices across town. In the afternoons, she stocked shelves at a grocery store. At night, she came home exhausted, helped with homework, prepared simple dinners, and tucked her children into bed while pretending everything would somehow be okay. She cried only after they were asleep because she refused to let them carry the weight of her grief. Months became years, and while Sarah managed to survive, she stopped believing she deserved happiness again. She overheard whispered conversations at family gatherings about how difficult her future would be. Some people pitied her, others quietly judged her. More than once, she heard someone say that no man would willingly marry a widow with 3 children because life was already complicated enough. She never argued. She simply smiled politely, thanked them for their concern, and carried those painful words home where they slowly became part of what she believed about herself. Across the city lived Michael Carter, a 42-year-old carpenter known for restoring old houses instead of tearing them down. Friends often joked that Michael saw beauty where everyone else only saw damage. Years earlier, he had lost his fiancée to cancer just months before their wedding. Instead of allowing bitterness to consume him, he poured his energy into helping his church repair homes for struggling families. He never imagined marrying anyone because he believed that chapter of his life had quietly closed. Yet somewhere deep inside, he still prayed that if love ever found him again, it would be because God had written a story greater than the one he had planned himself. One Sunday morning, Michael noticed Sarah sitting alone near the back of the church. Her children stayed close beside her, unusually quiet for kids their age. He didn't notice her because she was beautiful, although she certainly was. He noticed the way she smiled at everyone else while hiding tears she thought nobody could see. He noticed Caleb carefully helping his younger brother zip his jacket, Grace gently fixing her mother's scarf, and the quiet strength that held the little family together despite everything they had endured. For weeks, Michael simply greeted them after church, carrying groceries to Sarah's car whenever he saw her struggling with heavy bags. He repaired a broken fence after a storm without asking for payment. When the old furnace in Sarah's house stopped working in the middle of winter, he quietly spent 2 evenings fixing it before the children came home from school. He never expected anything in return. He simply believed kindness should never require an invitation. Sarah remained cautious. Life had taught her not to trust easy promises. She appreciated Michael's generosity, but assumed he only felt sorry for her. The children, however, slowly welcomed him into their lives. Caleb asked endless questions about woodworking. Grace proudly showed him every drawing she made. Noah insisted Michael push him on the swings whenever they visited the neighborhood park after church picnics. Months passed, and friendships grew stronger. Michael became part of birthdays, school plays, and backyard barbecues. He laughed with the children until his stomach hurt and listened patiently whenever Sarah spoke about Nathan, never acting jealous or uncomfortable. Instead, he honored the memory of the man who had once loved this family first. That simple respect slowly healed wounds Sarah had hidden from everyone else. One autumn evening, after helping the children carve pumpkins on the porch, Sarah finally admitted something she had carried for years. Looking down at her hands, she quietly confessed that people often reminded her no one wanted to marry a widow with 3 children. She said she had stopped believing she could ever be more than someone people felt sorry for. The words barely escaped her lips before tears rolled down her face. Michael looked at her with complete certainty. His voice remained calm as he answered with the words that would forever change both their lives. He told her that the people making those judgments had simply never met her. He explained that he hadn't fallen in love despite her children, but because of the extraordinary woman she became while loving them. He admired her courage, her faith, her patience, and the way she chose kindness even after unimaginable pain. Her past wasn't something he wanted erased. It was proof of the strength that made her remarkable. Sarah broke down crying, not because someone had proposed marriage, but because someone finally saw her value beyond her struggles. For the first time since Nathan's death, she felt seen instead of pitied. Their relationship continued slowly and carefully. Michael knew trust could not be rushed. He spent time building memories instead of making promises. He attended parent-teacher meetings when Sarah couldn't leave work early. He taught Caleb how to build a birdhouse, helped Grace plant a butterfly garden, and patiently read bedtime stories to Noah, giving every character a different funny voice, until all 3 children laughed themselves to sleep. When Michael finally asked Sarah to marry him nearly a year later, he didn't kneel in an expensive restaurant or organize a grand celebration. Instead, he invited the children into the living room where a small wooden box sat on the coffee table. Inside were 4 handcrafted wooden hearts. One carried Sarah's name, and the other 3 belonged to Caleb, Grace, and Noah. Michael explained that if he became part of their family, he wanted every heart equally, because love wasn't something divided. It multiplied. The children immediately wrapped their arms around him before Sarah could even answer. Through tears and joyful laughter, she finally whispered yes. Their wedding took place in the same church where they had first met. It wasn't extravagant. Friends decorated the sanctuary with wildflowers gathered from local gardens. The children walked beside their mother instead of behind her, proudly celebrating the family they were becoming together. There wasn't a single dry eye in the room as Michael promised not only to love Sarah, but also to guide, protect, and cherish the 3 children who had already become his own. Life didn't suddenly become perfect after the wedding. Bills still arrived, children still argued over chores. Unexpected challenges continued to appear, but something fundamental had changed. The house once filled with grief slowly echoed with laughter again. Sunday mornings became family breakfasts. Summer evenings ended with backyard campfires. Christmas mornings overflowed with excitement instead of sadness. Nathan's photographs remained displayed throughout the home, reminding everyone that love never disappears simply because life moves forward. Michael never tried to replace the children's father. Instead, he honored him while becoming another steady source of love in their lives. Years later, Caleb graduated high school and thanked both men who had shaped him, his father whose memory taught him courage, and Michael whose presence taught him that family is built by love, not only by blood. Grace eventually became an elementary school teacher because she wanted every child to know they mattered. Noah grew into a compassionate young man who volunteered with families facing hardships similar to the ones he barely remembered. Sarah often looked around the dinner table, watching her family laugh together, and quietly remembered the painful words she had once believed. She realized those people had been wrong all along. Her worth had never been measured by her past, her losses, or the number of children she was raising. The right person simply saw the extraordinary woman she had always been. Before this story comes to an end, please leave a comment and tell us, Do you believe true love is about accepting someone's past or helping them build a better future? We'd love to read your thoughts. Stories like Sarah's remind us that hope often arrives when we least expect it. Sometimes the world labels people according to their scars, while the right heart sees those very scars as proof of incredible strength. Love isn't about finding someone without burdens. It's about choosing to help carry those burdens together until they no longer feel so heavy. Every act of kindness, every patient moment, and every decision to stand beside someone in their darkest season has the power to rewrite an entire future. Sarah thought her greatest chapter had ended with unimaginable loss, but life still had pages left to write, and those pages became more beautiful than she ever dared imagine. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more emotional stories that remind us love, faith, and kindness can still change lives. Never stop believing that the right people will see your true worth even when the world cannot.